it's going to be interesting to see where Nico heads next. And like there was rumors of him going to North Carolina. I think there was a crystal ball prediction for him going there, but now news is coming out that they're targeting South Alabama's quarterback and no longer interested in Nico. So seeing his options dwindle a little bit, I mean, it would be hard to see him going to Oregon, considering all the rumors going out with Dan Lanning. I mean, of course, there's a possibility he goes to USC, goes to UCLA. I've heard Notre Dame and Maryland flying around. I mean, it'll be interesting to see moving forward, but I don't know how he gets that $4 million deal that he's hoping for.
Yeah, and we can go ahead and jump into some of the possible destinations here. And it looks like, too, that some of the ones you've already mentioned, like USC, Notre Dame, and Oregon, they all seem to be off the table. They don't want to deal with it. And, credit to Dan Lanning, if he did tell Josh Heupel what was going on, that it happened, because this is an example that needs to be set in college football. And I get it. Tennessee fought an entire legal battle over Nico, and that it can be portrayed as making things less regulated, but in reality, it was just, look, the NCAA doesn't have control over what we do with our NIL money, but it was giving that power to the schools. And you've got an instance now where the school doesn't want to deal with it, and they just ship the kid out. They don't want to have to try and deal with this. And you're starting to see it in other places with Nico. And I think players will be more cautious about doing things like this. And it's just not often, too, that you have such a heavy family involvement in all this either. But back to the destinations, obviously North Carolina is out the window right now. And it would have been a weird marriage, right? It would have been a really weird marriage between Bill Belichick, this old guy who's been in the NFL forever, coming down to college football. It's a completely different game. He's on a one-year deal, and you pair him with a guy who is right now the biggest poster child in college football. That's not an exaggeration. That's what you'd be working with at North Carolina. And I don't know, maybe they go out and have a good year because the ACC is just not a great conference right now, but there's no interest there. And it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for Bill Belichick to be interested in that, just knowing who he is. The two right now, though, that have a lot of steam are UCLA and Tulane. And honestly, I think Tulane would be the better fit between the two, just because it's a smaller stage. Maybe he does better there with limited competition. But you look at Tulane, apparently there is money there. They said some insider from Tulane said there was $5 million that they were willing to offer Nico, which is impressive, honestly, if they can find the funds for that. But just thinking about Tulane as a program, they weren't relevant 5 years ago. They've not been relevant for a lot of college football history. And now they've essentially just become this feeder from the group of five level up to the Power Four. And maybe that's what Nico wants to do, take one step back to go forward while collecting a bag at the same time. That could be a possibility. But with UCLA, outside of the fact that he's closer to home, I don't see the benefit in it, because you have a situation where you're playing for a football program that honestly is a very secondary football program in UCLA. In LA, they're not super passionate about college football. There's a lot of other things going on in that city. At UCLA, their basketball program is rich with winning tradition, not so much the football program. They do have one national title, but it just doesn't compare to what John Wooden did back in the day at UCLA. They are the little brother in their rivalry with USC. I think I looked earlier, USC is like a 17-game lead on them in the series. And here's the craziest part. They aren't even the biggest attraction in their own stadium. The Rose Bowl game is the biggest attraction in the Rose Bowl, not UCLA football. So there's not going to be a whole lot of eyes on Nico, respectfully, if he goes to UCLA, just because they just don't care as much out there. So I feel like Tulane is the better option, but it just doesn't feel like there's a great fit for him anywhere right now.
Well, I mean, if he wants to go to Tulane, then I guess he could play in a former SEC team there. That's his way in. But I mean, Tulane could be a good spot for him. I'm shocked to hear that they got possibly $5 million to throw towards him. I wouldn't have expected that. But I mean, Tulane's been a team that showed promise in the past couple of years. Some talented players have transferred out of there. But yeah, like UCLA, I mean, all the eyes, if all the media in Los Angeles is going to have their eyes on USC, and then like,
Not even USC, like bigger
well, yeah,
sports franchises, like
the
professional sports
Dodgers.
franchises, the Dodgers, the Lakers, they both exist. They'll get more attention, light years more attention than both of those football programs from the media.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess USC could be a good fit in the sense. I mean, if his goal is to go to the NFL, I would think that would be one of the better choices for him. I mean, although like Lincoln Riley has been very hit or miss, he's still put people into the league. Like he's put Caleb Williams into the league and whatnot. Like USC, he'd be closer to home, could be a good fit. But I mean, I don't know. Like if he can't seal the deal with like USC, UCLA, I guess Tulane. I mean, I feel like his options for money are running out, right?
Yeah, and I feel like USC has already said something about maybe not being interested in him either, which that's another blow to this whole situation for Nico. And it's unfortunate because, look, he is definitely a bad guy in this situation. Don't let anybody convince you that he's not. But it's not entirely his fault. There are other factors at play here. He does have an agent who's been rather mouthy on Twitter of late. I forget the guy's name. It's like Cordell Landers, maybe. I'll look again. And then, of course, his dad, Coach Nick, who was mouthy all season with fans online and has decided to get really mouthy again all of a sudden over this situation. And what it feels like is Coach Nick is basically doing all this as if he knows his kid is not going to make it at the next level, and he's looking for the money in this situation. And unfortunately, this has happened before with quarterbacks. We saw it with DJU. His dad, Big Dave, was incredibly mouthy on Twitter with Clemson fans. And then, of course, he transfers out to Oregon State, has a better year, and then he transfers to Florida State, and the guy can't complete a pass. So it's a shame because these kids are talented, but you just have some other figures in their life that are maybe interfering a little too much. Not saying you should disrespect your dad or anything, but when your dad is pulling this kind of stunt, maybe it's best to make the call for yourself.
Yeah, and I agree. And correct me if I'm wrong, but DJ was a 5-star at one point, correct?
Yeah, he was basically the first miss in a long line of great Clemson quarterbacks.
Yeah, I mean, because they had like Trevor Lawrence, Deshaun Watson, even before them, Taj Boyd. I mean, and then you got 5-star quarterback. I mean, you're talking about how it's a little bit of similar situation. I mean, hopefully that's not the case for Nico and his career, but I mean, you make bad decisions and they add up. I mean, you can find yourself in a difficult situation. And I feel like that's what Nico's in right now with, trying to find a new team. Like I mentioned earlier, like if he would have just done this earlier in the season, I don't think he would have had as many problems that he's having right now. But yeah, it's still trying to digest all of this. It's just interesting that all of this happened. It's just so quickly. I just can't get over it, how quickly this has all happened in like the span of a couple of days when Tennessee fans were expecting Nico to be the guy moving forward. And then now just scrambling, trying to figure out what to do next.